Hey guys, my name is Matimo, and in today's challenge, a lot of you wanted me to use an Xbox 360 controller while playing Battlefield 4 on my PC. Some of you might be thinking now, how is this a challenge? I always use a controller when I'm playing Battlefield. Well, first of all, I am terrible with the controller. I have no idea when I'm using this thing. I've been playing on PC since the very beginning. I am a PC gamer through and through. And the second thing being is that I am playing on PC. I'm going against players that are using a mouse and keyboard. They have the precision of those accessories while I'm over here, and while I know that some people are amazing with the controller, they can do some very impressive things, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing when I am using the sticks. And so going into it, I thought that this was going to be atrocious. I thought that maybe if I got lucky, maybe if I snuck around and caught someone by surprise and they were equally awful at Battlefield 4, that I would be able to get a couple kills here and there. But for the most part, I was preparing myself to flop around like a wet noodle, just getting slapped around left and right, and just to die continuously over and over and over again. Surprisingly though, I had a lot of fun with this. I was still getting slapped around, like, don't get me wrong, I was still terrible with this, but I actually enjoyed my time using a controller even though I had all of these things kind of piled against me. And so one of the things that caught me by surprise is that certain aspects of the game actually play a little bit differently when you are using a different accessory. The one thing that really stood out to me is that vehicular combat is really different when you are using the controller. For the most part, driving around actually feels significantly better when I was using the Xbox controller. Like, flying around in a jet was actually a lot of fun. I couldn't aim worth anything, I couldn't actually shoot and line up targets very well, but being able to maneuver around and doing loop-de-loops just felt better when I was using the analog sticks. Using a mouse, it just feels clunky, like I can never wrap my head around it, but as soon as I got into the cockpit of not only a helicopter but a jet, it just felt a hell of a lot more natural, so that was a lot of fun. The one thing about it though is that as soon as you get into a tank, that's where things get really clunky. On PC, because you can really ramp up the sensitivity, you can whip that massive cannon around absolutely no problem. If there's an enemy behind you, you can whip it around in half a second and you're going to be able to take him out no problem. With the analog sticks though, something that I quickly discovered is that it takes a significant amount of time to turn that cannon just even a 180. Because you need to keep the sensitivity relatively low to maintain that accuracy when you are using the controller, if you ever get into a situation where an enemy engineer is firing at your rear, or even worse, if a support player is running up directly behind you and he's about to lay C4 on your hull, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. And so in those situations, I basically had to accept my death or just jump out, leave the tank vulnerable so that he could steal it, which is never really an option, or just hope and cross my fingers that I get lucky enough to somehow take him out before he can jump into that vehicle or blow up the C4. It was a pretty precarious situation. And so while it wasn't awful, like, I still had a lot of fun in the tank, and somehow I was able to snipe 2 helicopters out of sky. I have no idea how that happened, but I now can fully sympathize with those players that complain on Reddit or on the Battlefield forums when they say that the turn speed is just ridiculous on console and it just feels like a slow, clunky vehicle, especially when you compare it to its PC counterparts. Another thing I quickly noticed is that when I'm firing at an enemy and I get into a firefight with someone, you really have to commit to that firefight when you are using a controller compared to PC. When I'm playing on PC, if I get into a sticky situation, let's say I just peek around a corner and I realize that there's 5 guys looking at me, well, I can quickly dart and change my camera to the left or the right depending on where cover is, and then quickly sprint behind cover. Usually you're gonna come out of that alive. But with the controller, of course, because I can't turn as quickly, if I got into a firefight with someone, halfway through, if I realized I wasn't gonna come out of it alive, or I got into that precarious situation where a lot of people were looking at me as soon as I rounded the corner, it took a significant amount of time for me to turn my body and then sprint out of the way. It was more of just an awkward shuffle to the left and the right instead of that really quick sprint that I was used to on PC. And so normally when I got into those circumstances, I had to commit to the firefight. I was like, all right, well, I'm probably gonna die right now, but let's just go, let's see this through, let's follow through to the very end and see if we come out of it alive. And so it made me think about combat a little bit differently. I knew that if I was getting into a firefight, for the most part, I had to follow through with it unless they were the ones that ran away. And so I was more methodical around the map. I would position myself behind cover a lot more. I would try to situate myself where I could either duck behind cover very quickly or go prone and get behind a barrel, for example. And it really did change the way I played the game simply because of the accessory that I was using. I wasn't really expecting that. Another thing that caught me by surprise is that I fully expected to really struggle here because the PC version of Battlefield doesn't have auto-aim. When I am playing a first-person shooter with a controller, I pretty much lean on auto-aim. Like, I need it. It's a necessity because normally, if I didn't have it, I wasn't going to be able to get a kill whatsoever. When I played Destiny, auto-aim was pretty much my savior. It was the only reason why I was able to have at least somewhat success in that game. And so going into this challenge, I assumed that I wasn't going to get any kills whatsoever because there wasn't auto-aim. To my surprise, and I don't know if it's just because I've become more comfortable using a controller while playing a first-person shooter, but I was somehow able to go higher than a 1 kill death ratio. For like every death, I was somehow managing to get a single kill. This really blew me away. Going to this, I wasn't expecting to even get close to a 1 kill death ratio. I thought it would be way lower than that, but to my surprise, and I don't know if this is because I didn't have auto aim, maybe I shouldn't have never used auto aim in these other games, but I was nearing like a kill death ratio of like 1.5. It was a very pleasant surprise. Sure, there was some games where I did better than others. Sometimes I went negative, but on average, I was going positive. One time I had almost a 2 kill death ratio. I was blown away by this. And so I don't know if it was just because I was more comfortable with the controller and I would have done better to begin with, or if it was because I wasn't using auto aim. A lot of you guys recommended that I never use auto aim in a first person shooter because it mixes up your accuracy, but I always thought that this was kind of a crutch that I needed to lean on, but maybe this was something that I should have tried from the very beginning when I was playing games like Destiny, and I would have done a hell of a lot better. Regardless though, I was ecstatic. At the end of the day, though, I loved this challenge. Going into it, I thought it was going to be awful. I thought it was going to be a nightmare. But the end result, I had a smile on my face. Sure, there were some frustrating moments here and there when I just struggled with the controller. I mean, look at this accuracy. Look at this accuracy. I was pretty bad. But for the most part, I love the fact that I could recline in my chair. I didn't have to hunker over my mouse and keyboard. I could just relax and play Battlefield 4. And it gave me the confidence to maybe go back and play games like Destiny that I struggled with in the past and maybe try out some different setups, like without having the auto aim on. And so just in general, I am very happy that I took up this challenge. It was an absolute blast. And honestly, I could see myself maybe every once in a while just kind of lounging and playing Battlefield 4. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Terrible Weapon Challenge. I hope you enjoyed. I realized this one was a little bit unorthodox. This is something that we haven't really done for this series. Normally, it is setups and loadouts you guys recommended, but this is something that you guys have been wanting for a very long time, so I hope you guys enjoyed. But as always, if you have a setup that you would like me to try next, let me know down below. This is a video series that is based off of your recommendations, and so if there is a gadget that you would like me to use exclusively or a weapon with a terrible combination of attachments, let me know down below. But yeah, guys, until tomorrow, have a good one and take it easy.